Hi, I'm James Shillinglaw, and I'm here with what might be a familiar face for many of you, Jerry Inzerillo, who is the CEO of Diriyah Gate Development. I don't know if I said that right. Project in Saudi Arabia. Now, what's that? Well, it's a massive tourism development project in Saudi Arabia, as many of you may have known. Pre-COVID, it's been about a year lost here. That Saudi Arabia is working to make a vision for tourism by 2030, making a major tourism destination. And Jerry is there to do just that. And we're going to talk about that and more on Insider Travel Report. Now, first of all, Jerry, how are you? And of course, where are you? You're in Saudi Arabia, right?
Yes, and first of all, great to see you, James. And after all these years, for everyone listening, you have been kind to the community for as long as I can remember. And I should start off by saying thank you from the global tourism community to global innkeepers for the great work that you've always done. You've always been a great positive example to us all, and we admire you, and it's a pleasure to be with you and everybody listening, and thank you very much for your unbelievably great service to tourism over many years.
So well, thank you. You and I first met way back when you opened Atlantis in the Bahamas, and I remember, as I just told you earlier, it was the best opening I ever went to. So you were responsible for that, and then you've had many other roles. You worked for Ian Schrager. You worked for Forbes Travel Guide most recently. We've talked then. But now you are in Saudi Arabia, and that's amazing. So talk a little bit about your new role as CEO of this great organization, Diriyah Gate Development Project.
Diriyah is a very, very special place, and obviously we'll talk about that in a little bit of depth. But let me just set it up. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has not only great proximity, because if you look at the location of the kingdom relative to the globe, you're the gateway of three continents. So, of course, we're the hub, we're the birthplace of the Arabian Peninsula. But to have Europe and Asia and the Middle East all central, that's very important. Now, Diriyah, which is located in central Riyadh, right in the middle of the kingdom's principal city. Now, theologically, we're very blessed because His Majesty the King is the custodian of the two holy mosques, His Majesty King Salman. So Saudi Arabia, as everybody knows, is the custodian of Mecca and Medina, which are two of the most holy and most beautiful places on earth, especially if one is of the Muslim Islamic faith. That's very critical, and it's very critical to our tourism strategy going forward. However, from a non-theological point of view, the principal city of Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, is now at 7.2 million, but there is very, very assertive plans being done now by the Crown Prince as part of our Vision 30 to double the population of Riyadh and to certainly get it from 7 to 10 million by 2030. Diriyah, the birthplace of the kingdom, the birthplace of the Arabian Peninsula, is actually in the middle of Riyadh. So it would have the same juxtaposition and the same historical and spiritual relevance as what the Colosseum would be to the Romans in Rome, or what the Acropolis would be to the Greeks in terms of Athens. So think of it in that cultural proximity. And the idea of the Crown Prince is to take the UNESCO World Heritage Site of At-Turaif, which you see behind me,
right,
and to build it into a master plan that eventually by 2030 will attract 25 million visitors to Riyadh and into the Diriyah master plans. So we are in the process. We're very far along, even in a short 3 years, thanks to His Majesty and the Crown Prince. We're in the ground as we're talking, and you're looking at a $20 billion United States dollar master plan that eventually will employ 55,000 people. Will get tourism in the kingdom from 3% of GDP to 10% of GDP. Diriyah will house, recreate, educate, explore, learn over 100,000 residents by that time. So it's the largest cultural heritage development by far in the world currently.
Now, the idea is not just religious tourism, right? This is tourism from all over, from every country that to invite people.
Yes. Now, His Majesty the King and the Crown Prince feel very strongly about a number of things. But one thing that they feel very strongly about is to return the kingdom to pre-1979 sociological moderation. The other thing is to have people from all over the world come and see the physical beauty of the kingdom. You and I were talking a little bit earlier that this time last year, I was up in the northern part of a very pretty city called Tabuk in the northern part of Saudi Arabia, and I was standing in about 2 feet of snow. Well, I took one of the kids made a little snowman smoking a shisha pipe, and I thought it was cute, took a picture, and everybody said, "Where are you?" "I'm in Saudi Arabia." "Wait, you're in snow?" "Well, it snows in Saudi Arabia." Well, we have beautiful rivered canyons. We have the largest portion of the Red Sea in the world with beautiful archipelagos. We have 5 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, of which At-Turaif is the birthplace, and Al-Ula and historic Jeddah and Al-Asa palm groves, largest palm oasis in the world, several million palm trees. So there's so much staggering physical beauty here that His Majesty and the Crown Prince just wants people to come. But the number one reason why they want people to come is because they want people to understand what those of us who have come to the kingdom for a while understand, that the Saudis are very warm, generous, and hospitable people. Mm-hmm. And they want people to come, see for themselves, interact with Saudis, interact with the society, see the beautiful country, and without anybody telling anybody what to think, how to think, what one's political ideology is, anything. Come, you are welcomed, and make your own mind up for yourself, but you will see a very welcoming, beautiful kingdom, and that's why His Majesty and the Crown Prince has set all of us, including the newly formed Ministry of Tourism, up on a path to make tourism one of the principal drivers of the kingdom as we diversify solely from most of the revenue coming from energy.
No, I know. That was and in fact, when they kicked that whole campaign off it seems so very long ago, pre-COVID, and we were all astounded that they seemed to really be opening the Saudis. They seemed to be really opening the kingdom to visitors, and I had a number of friends in the industry who went over for the initial kind of trip to figure it out, and then of course COVID hit, and we've been sort of delayed, and now as we hopefully emerge from COVID, you'll be back on track. And talk a little bit about this development. This project is going to include 20 hotels and resorts, correct? And what's the rollout period? I even think there might be a hotel open now or opening up soon, right?
Yes, we have the first hotel, but let me backtrack just a second to just say this. If you think as a metaphor of a beautiful necklace of jewels, and there's a centerpiece to that necklace. The centerpiece is the UNESCO World Heritage Site of At-Turaif, which is the mud city that was built almost 400 years ago off one of the most beautiful natural oasis in the world, which is the legendary Wadi Hanifa. Mm-hmm. Now, when people came to trade and to rest, they settled in this beautiful wadi because it had abundant water and sustenance and beautiful palm covers and, food. And people said, this is a beautiful place to rest, to trade, to settle, to share. And a city came up. And then thanks to the House of Al Saud, peace was done and the merging political ideology, meaning what do we do as a band of tribes to raise even a standard of living by then, way pre-oil, and to merge it with the theology of Islam, and where one would have great connection to one's faith, one's family, one's community, and trade. And people said, this is a good life. So let's settle here. And they took the natural resources and the building material at the time, right, and built basically a mud adobe city where over 30,000 people lived there. Even at the beginning of the third Saudi state of 100 years ago, 400 years ago. Sorry. So it became a great place. Now, if you look at that as the jewel, we don't want to trample it. It's right, the birthplace of the kingdom. It's not a theme park. Now, we have some amazing giga projects in Riyadh and throughout the kingdom that the Crown Prince is chairman of. Like, we have another unbelievable giga project here called Diriyah in Riyadh on the other side. Now, Diriyah is meant to be pop culture. It has the largest Six Flags operation, and it has the largest racing pavilions and water parks and snow fantasy pavilions. I mean, it is going to be amazing, but that's intended to be pop culture and to entertain the society, because the Crown Prince and His Majesty feel strongly that a well-entertained society and a fit society and a society that's holistic to its religion and its family values will have a happier society. So that's that. But Diriyah is the birthplace of the kingdom. It's sacred. It's not a theme park. So while we will welcome people from all over the world, we will not trample it. It's not about running up 20, 30, 40 million people to go through this mud city. They will come, and they will come by the millions, but we will be very sensitive to the ecosystem. So in order to do that, we have to build concentric circles around the UNESCO site, which will include 20 hotels in the first phase, over 100 restaurants, souks, universities, theaters, opera houses, 12 museums, beautiful. Many of them iconic, including the first time ever for over 110 years, the House of Al Saud. Now, we have the first hotel in the ground right now, which we're the owners of. We're building. It's done in the old Najdi architecture, and it's in the mud and in the mud type of mudwood type of feeling that when people come, it will feel like it did hundreds of years ago. This is the intention of it. Right. We don't put down a black asphalt. We put down all the old Diriyah Riyadh stone. It's all in the authentic materials, because the Crown Prince wants, when people come to Diriyah, it's meant for Saudis and for our guests from all over the world to see what Saudi life was like a few hundred years ago, to connect to that rich, authentic history, and to celebrate going forward by understanding and celebrating an authentic, rich cultural history from the past.
Will that be still a luxury hotel, even though it reflects the past, or is this?
Yes, that now we do have, we're getting ready after this board meeting to announce the 20 brands, and they're all the high luxury brands that you come to know around the world. Now, there's two strategies. The kingdom, which you thoughtfully, and you're up on it as well as anyone. We opened up the kingdom, thanks to His Majesty and the Crown Prince, in September of 2019.
Right.
The WTTC and the UNWTO said that in the period from September 19 to February 20, prior to COVID safety protocols, that Saudi Arabia was the fastest growing country in terms of tourism, because we only opened up to 49 countries plus Macau and Hong Kong, but we were averaging 55,000 visas a week. The Crown Prince upgraded the Saudi Commission for Culture and Heritage to a full ministry, appointed the wonderful His Excellency Ahmed Al-Khatib as the first Minister of Tourism. That department, the ministry, in 1 year has done breathtaking work, including rolling out the new campaign that we just started reissuing again, knowing that with the encouraging news on the vaccines, that sometime, we don't know, but we're ready as a kingdom, but sometime probably in the second half of 2021, we'll get people come back visit.
Yeah.
Certainly the Saudis are already visiting in record numbers in the kingdom. So we've started a lot of that. But Diriyah is meant for the mid, on its amenities, hotels, restaurants, it's meant for mid to high.
Right.
Whereas the national strategy, the tourism national strategy, has a very prolific growth rate on 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5-star operations, because the kingdom needs it all.
No, of course, and even though there are very great hotels in Saudi Arabia, but it still, at least from the U.S. perspective, wasn't a place you considered to be a tourism destination yet, because until we had this visa situation and the travel and tourism departments that you've recently created in the last year, it didn't seem to be too welcoming, and now it is. So
yeah, and it's very interesting because when you work on such an intimate basis with the Crown Prince and the board, a lot of times people say to me, well, what's he like? What's it like, working with the Crown Prince? And he's very, very thoughtful. He and His Majesty is amazing. I mean, because a lot of people don't realize that all the Saudis know this, and most people from the Gulf, but the custodian of the two holy mosques, His Majesty the King, is probably our foremost historian, in addition to being the king.
Sure.
And he's one of the most learned people. He's one of the most prolific readers. We're building an amazing library now, the King Salman Library and the Diriyah Master Plan. And we keep growing the footprint of the library because we keep discovering more and more repositories of books. But the Crown Prince he wants people to come. He wants people to see the welcome. And this is one of the rich things about the country that I enjoy. And in addition to the fact that the kingdom is so positive and optimistic relative to all of the polarization that we see around the G20 right now. There's a great optimism here. Like, you remember when I left Ian Schrager to go help Mandela in South Africa in 1990, when Mandela got out of prison. There was a great optimism when Mandela got out of prison that extended right through, right up to the millennium. And that optimism is here in the kingdom now, thanks to His Majesty. So from a national tourism strategy point of view, we're really, really looking forward to welcoming people. And when we did the post reviews, I sit on the Saudi Tourism Authority, along with your friend Edie Rodriguez. When we did the review of all the people that came to visit the kingdom, the two things, we had one or two negative things to overcome. You have to improve your infrastructure, and the amenities are not what we expect globally. We'll get to that in the next 12, 24, 36 months. We're aware of that. But the positives were the big things. We had no idea that the place was so beautiful. We had no idea that there was so much to do outdoors and so much culture and heritage. But the number one thing of why people said they would come back to the kingdom was because the people were so warm, welcoming, and friendly. And as you know, someone who's been all over the world so many times, when you go to societies that are warm and welcoming, you want to go back.
No, absolutely. And in fact, that's been my experience throughout the Middle East. When I've gone to Jordan and Egypt and Israel and all over the place, it's everyone is warm and welcoming. And it's always encouraging that now Saudi Arabia will be, really added to this mix if you didn't know it before. Now, obviously, you've been, as you mentioned, involved in so many different hotel developments, whether it was with Ian Schrager, whether it was with Saul Kerzner, wherever you've been, you've overseen, Forbes Travel Guide. How does this compare, this project? I mean, it sounds like this is going to be, really an amazing project, maybe the biggest you've ever worked on, right?
Oh, well, there's no question about that. I mean, anybody that knows a little bit about my career knows that, many, many, many years ago, I went to school in Las Vegas at UNLV. And there's a term when you're winning in the casino business and you say, I'm playing with house money. And at this point in my career, I have the privilege, and I consider it a privilege and an honor, to be in Saudi at this time. I never thought that anything would be more exciting, fulfilling, honorable than to walk in the steps of Mandela when he came out of prison, and to help South Africa get on the tourism scene as it did. Saul Kersner gave me that opportunity. I weigh it to what I did with Steve Rebell and Ian Schrager, or my wonderful years with one of my great heroes to this day, Isidore Sharp.
Right.
Hired me in 1980 as general manager of Four Seasons Houston. I mean, it's 40 years ago. It's 41 years ago. And then 9 years with Hilton. So I've been the luckiest person. And I count my blessings that way. And I try to approach a 50-year career with humility. But there is nothing that compares to this, because you have His Majesty the King, you got the Crown Prince. Today I hosted the cultural night, even though His Majesty made the right decision to protect everybody's safety by hosting the G20 virtually.
Right.
The Kingdom on November 20th to November 23rd hosted the G20. We did the cultural night. We put the image of all of the heads of state. We projected it on the mud silhouettes of At-Turaif. We got almost 1 billion impressions on it. Very, very successful. So, at this point in your career, when you're doing royal inaugurations and G20s and welcoming, we welcomed over a dozen heads of state for dinners that the Crown Prince has done at At-Turaif. This is a great honor, but the biggest honor is to work with these young, super educated, very passionate young Saudis. Now, in DGDA, the Diriyah Gate Development Authority, 81% of our staff are Saudi. 36% of the Saudi staff are Saudi women. 16% of those Saudi women are already in positions of management. And in our community, the community we serve, which is the municipality of Diriyah,
right.
Our community, 15% of our workforce is from the community we serve. So when you are a veteran, as you and I are, and you get to work every day with hundreds and thousands of these positive, fired up, energetic, educated Saudis, it's for me, it's Red Bull. I mean, their optimism, their positivity, and this is going to carry this kingdom, this country, to an extremely bright future. And to think that they have the Crown Prince, who's only 35 years old, will have such we have something that nobody knows. We have a kind of inside line here, because when people say you're working so hard, you're working an 80-hour work week, and that's no joke. We do, all the CEOs, all the ministers. We call it MBS time.
Oh.
You got Eastern Standard Time, Pacific Standard Time. We call it MBS time, because when the boss works 80 hours a week, and he does the Crown Prince, you better work 81, because he knows your subject matter better than you do.
Yeah.
But we don't mind it, because he's so positive and so optimistic, and that's a great thing.
Yeah, no, well, obviously you've had experience with gentlemen like that, with Saul and with Ian, who would be nonstop working, but it sounds like MBS is another level here, especially because he's doing it with the entire country. And one of the things I wanted to ask you, because obviously the Middle East right now is between places like Dubai and Qatar and Abu Dhabi. I mean, we get releases all the time about how much tourism development there is. And now we have Saudi Arabia, which is ramping up and actually probably has a lot more wealth than any of those countries combined and can do this. So we're seeing the dawn, I think, of a giant new tourism destination region-wide. And now that Saudi Arabia has entered the mix, it's going to be just beyond the pale. This will be the center of the world.
Oh, well, there's no doubt in my mind that the way you saw from a period of post-1980, where you saw a big push towards Asian tourism, and you covered it. Now you're going to see a real renaissance period for post-COVID tourism to the Gulf. Now, this is very interesting because if you look at the Gulf region, and you look at even if you start with the Emirates, certainly you could talk about Qatar, and we're delighted that the Crown Prince. We're delighted. We just had a historic GCC meeting this past week, where the GCC came back together, right, and in solidarity. This is very, very good news. And we have to thank
the service and everything else is hopefully back to normal.
Yes, and this is very good for everybody, and it's something that the Crown Prince and the King wanted to do. So the entire extended tourism community in the Gulf are thrilled about this very positive development, and with World Cups coming up and a lot of major events happening in Saudi. Big announcements that are going to be coming out in the realm of sport and entertainment and the giga projects in 21-22. But what I will say is that when you look at visionaries in the different Gulf states, they've done an amazing job. I mean, if you look at Sheikh Nayem, we affectionately call him MBZ, Mohammed bin Zayed, you look at the Nayem family, you look at Sheikh Mohammed Al Maktoum, Sheikh Ahmed, the chairman of Emirates, you look at our wonderful colleagues in Oman, right, Qatar, Kuwait. There's so much going on here, but it all started here in Saudi Arabia.
That's
and
right.
Now that you got a hard-driving, pro-tourism visionary like MBS, because we have the culture, we have the history. We're thousands of years old. When people come here to see it's not one city, it's not two cities. This is a whole kingdom. So to add that into the Gulf's critical mass, along with the professionalism and the standards and the resources that the Crown Prince, His Excellency Al Khatib, His Highness Prince Badr, our unbelievable Minister of Culture. You look at His Royal Highness Prince Abdulaziz and the Minister of Sport, His Excellency Turki Al Sheikh in charge of the General Entertainment Authority. I mean, we got some powerhouse leaders here, and they're young and they're fired up. And the Crown Prince said, it's the time for Saudi, it's the time for the Gulf, and this region is getting ready to steer into a major, major decade of authentic Renaissance travel.
No, that's great. And we just got delayed a little bit for this past year with COVID here and around the world, which is very sad because you were kicking that off about a year ago. And then this whole thing has been kind of crazy. Now, obviously, we're going out to about 75,000 travel advisors out here in the U.S. and Canada. What would you tell them about Diriyah Gate and also the rest of tourism to Saudi Arabia? Obviously we've been talking about how this is going to be a real viable destination for leisure and business travel in the next few years. But if for those who have concerns about it still, because there's a lot of they have they're thinking about things in the old way, and they don't understand that Saudi Arabia is now open, and we've been really focused on other things lately between crazy elections and COVID in the last few months, and now we're finally emerging. But what would you tell travel advisors about both this project and Saudi Arabia?
I've been very blessed because I've had a very intimate and close relationship with the travel agent community, particularly for almost my entire career. because we've always been great allies. And, when I would give speeches, especially with Forbes Travel Guide, on standards and on service, I would say to everybody every day, the most beautiful hotel is not necessarily the best. The best hotels are the ones that are warm, engaging, anticipatory. It goes down to service. So with Forbes Travel Guide, the only entity in the world that validates and verifies that, I would say, look, you have to have that consistency. Now, we are not naive. His Majesty is a very decent, wonderful, empathetic, compassionate man. Look at Saudi's leadership when it came to the COVID. His Majesty went on TV. He said, this is not a Saudi problem. This is a human problem. Whether you're here in the kingdom legally or illegally, it doesn't matter. The kingdom will pay for all your testing. We did all the tracing. We did all the hospitalization, and we became a role model. Now, even with the COVID, with the vaccinations, the kingdom bought much more vaccinations, because the kingdom wants to be in a position not only to vaccinate every citizen and every person here, but to also help out other people that may not be able to afford the vaccines, other countries. So what I would say to my very beloved travel agent community, and it goes right from the small mom and pop shop that I love the most, right up to our great pals at Virtuoso and everyone. We know the noise out there. No one's naive. But if you look at the G20, what country doesn't have issues right now?
Right.
All we say is come to Saudi, one of the safest countries in the world, one of the most welcoming and engaging and beautiful countries, and have everybody come make up their mind.
Right.
Now, we're putting tens of billions of US dollars into tourism infrastructure, upgrading of airports, road systems, interconnectivity, tour operation, activation of Red Sea, activation of all the UNESCO heritage sites. Diriyah, in its first phase, is 20 billion US dollars.
Wow.
We've attracted all the great hotel companies. All the CEOs are very excited about Saudi, because they know that tourism is going to be quite dynamic here. Our numbers are not small. The Crown Prince's expectations of us are not slight. We're not going from 1 million to 2 million to 5 million. I mean, the two master plans in Mecca and Medina will welcome pilgrimages from 16 million to 30 million people. We will welcome tourism throughout the entire kingdom to 100 million people, of which Riyadh will have 25 million, and today 7 million of that 25. So what I would say to the travel agent community is, please shop us at dgda.gov.sa. Shop us. Please go on the wonderful Saudi Ministry of Tourism site. The ministry and all of us are here to answer any questions. We've got 24/7 helplines to make travel into the kingdom. Now, we have to wait and see what happens with the vaccinations going.
Sure.
We had an amazing rollout. Almost all of those 55,000 visas that were happening weekly, those visas were able to be gotten in a matter of minutes. So, and we got great response. Now, we got some criticism. We have work to do in infrastructure, but I would rather have work to do in infrastructure than I would in having an unwelcoming society. We have the opposite. We have a very welcoming society, and we have to catch up to international standards, which we're doing, and the Crown Prince has given us that. So I would say, have people come. There's so much outdoor activity. There's so much adventure activity, cultural and heritage activity, sea and sand activity, history, Saudi food, amazing Saudi music and costuming, and you'll have a great time. But you have to promise me that you'll visit Diriyah, because as we say here, there's only one Diriyah.
There you go. Well, Jerry, I want to thank you for taking the time. Since I heard that Saudi Arabia was opening up more than a year ago, I wanted to come, and then I realized you were part of the project. Now I want to come even more. So to see Diriyah and what you're doing now. Hopefully by the second half of the year, we'll be able to get over there. I know there's lots of things going over there. You have the Dubai Expo. Hopefully it's still going to happen towards the end. So I was planning on being over there anyway. So sounds like I can spend a lot of time over there.
You can. I mean, and we're back in business. I mean, we have to watch what happens with the crowds. But even in February of this year, we're staging our third Formula E. The Crown Prince and His Royal Highness Prince Abdulaziz, our wonderful Minister of Sport, brought the Formula E. And now Formula One. I mean, we'll be staging our third Formula E on the streets of Diriyah in February. We'll see what we're allowed to have in terms of spectators, but it will be globally televised. Yeah. And we just want people to know everyone's welcome. It's a positive, optimistic time. You'll have a great time here. So come and see and enjoy, and we look forward to welcoming everybody. And James, congratulations to you. Props to you. You're one of our great leaders, especially in the travel agent industry. You're someone that we look up to, and we look forward to welcoming everyone.
Well, I hope to be there later this year and hope to see you again. It's great to talk with you now, and it sounds like as we emerge here, I mean, we're still kind of mired in COVID here, but hopefully we're going to emerge, as you said, later this year. But again, thanks for taking the time to speak with me.
All right, everybody, wear your masks.
There you go.
See you soon.
There you go. I'm James Shillinglaw, and this is Insider Travel Report.